Patricia Greenberg, and this is It's Okay to Be Old, a show about all things aging well. Now, in my quest to let everyone around me know that it's okay to be old, or in realistic terms, being in the cohort of adults over 65, we can still achieve our lofty goals personally, professionally, and physically. My guest today is Molly Sheridan, and she just this past January 31st through February 6th, at 68 years old, ran the World Marathon Challenge, which is 7 marathons in 7 days on all 7 continents. Now, just to give you context, for those of you who don't run, a marathon is 26.2 miles. Now, this is a universal distance wherever you run it, 26.2 miles. Now, imagine doing that every day for 7 days on all 7 continents of the world. Welcome, Molly.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, wow, wow, wow. I think it doesn't even register for most people how you can even do this. Now, I know a lot about running. I'm sitting in front of my background. It is Global Running Day, World Running Day, National Running Day. Running is being celebrated all over the world today. So this is why I wanted to partake in this, especially today. And I read about you, Molly, in USA Today. I saw the article on you. I have followed this kind of remotely, what the 7 marathons in 7 days and but I had no idea logistically how it happens. So tell us about what the challenge is.
Yes, let me let you know. It's so interesting. So many people say, how is that possible? Well, how it's possible is that the company is the World Marathon Challenge. It's actually a company that puts on this event. There's 60 athletes from all over the world that come, and we meet in South Africa at Cape Town.
Okay.
So the race begins with a flight over to Antarctica. And that's the first day. We run 26.2 miles in Antarctica. Then we fly back to Cape Town. And actually, that flight is 5.5 hours. We land back in Cape Town. Within that 8 hours, we run the second marathon, 26.2 miles in Cape Town. Then the third day, we have made it over to Perth, Australia. Perth is the third marathon, 26.2 miles. Get back on the plane. The fourth day is Dubai. The fifth day is Madrid, running marathons there, each country. Then we go to Brazil, and then we end in we go to, Brazil, and then Miami's the last day. So it's 7 consecutive days, 184 miles in those 7 days. It's pretty intense.
Now I'm going to give numbers because because people, again, trying to figure out how do you do that? So you started in Antarctica, you finished in Miami, Florida. It's, if you don't mind my sharing, it's $49,500 to enter. 60 people participated. I pulled this off the article, so
Right.
jump in. Okay, 168 hours from start to finish, 68 hours spent on the plane. Now, my question to you is, how are the courses sanctioned to be official? Were you piggybacking existing races, or this company picked the courses and it's specific to them?
Yeah, let me go over your stats too.
Sure.
The stats are, it is a really expensive race. A lot of the athletes are either sponsored or they got sponsors to help them with that cost. And everybody on there was raising a ton of money for charities too. So hundreds of thousands of dollars. I just wanted to say that because it's such a hard race to get in. It's super expensive. And so a lot of sponsors and charities are really benefiting from that. So the other thing is, it's 60 people were on one plane, except for when we go to Antarctica. That is like a Russian cargo plane, because we go into the interior of Antarctica and it's a special plane that gets us there. Once we get back to Cape Town, the rest of the time is on a plane that is designed to take all of us. There's beds for every runner on that plane. So when we land in a country, like for example, when we land back in Cape Town, the race management company has hired a marathon company to put the course together and have aid stations. So every country that we land in, the course is ready to go, the aid stations are ready to go, and it's just for the 60 people that are running on that plane. So they have it all coordinated so that when we land, everything's ready for us and we run. That's logistically the interesting part. Did that answer your question about like how it's done?
Absolutely. So the plane is just like, the whole plane is first class, if you will. It's a flatbed, and there's food. Every marathon, I can tell you this, if you look at my wall, you see how many races I've done. We all have our weird quirks about your superstitions at the starting line, the certain type of foods that you need, your clothing, I have a superstition about, wearing certain colors, a certain color. We all have these crazy things. Is your personal preferences accommodated?
I always take care of myself. I pretend that any race I go to, I pretend they have no food.
Okay.
Okay, I just because you never know,
Yeah,
right?
you're
You
right.
might not
No, you're
like
right.
it. It might
Yeah,
not be what you expect. So I
yeah.
always take all my own nutrition. And I always am prepared and I eat a lot and I take in a lot of calories and I'm really
Okay.
meticulous.
Okay.
So that to me was how I packed my pack. And then every day on the plane, you have to change into your gear. So I had everything really organized as far as like I had a pack of clothes for each continent.
Right.
And in
Right.
that bag was my nutrition and stuff. So that really helped me along. Yes, the plane does provide meals, but as far as I was concerned, I had my own things that I really liked, and I ate the entire time I was on that plane, whether they were serving me or not.
Mhm, mhm.
So that
And
was a big piece.
so the other questions I had for you is that did was there a time limit on each marathon?
Yes, yeah. They give there's a 8 hour time limit that the course is open, so that if like when you think about it, Antarctica, like it was so cold and it's so intense. And that's the very first race. We had like a 3 mile triangular course. Um, so it's really nice. They just give you the amount allotted time and you can do with that as you will. If you need to stop, if you need to change your clothes because you start sweating and you're freezing, they
Yes.
really make it so that it's doable and safe for every athlete. And Brazil was a totally different thing. Brazil was so hot and the humidity so high. I would say that was probably on the spectrum the toughest as far as heat and humidity went. So that was but they give you that same amount of time to get yourself to the finish line. Yes.
And did you feel, I don't know if you personally are very competitive, did you feel the race to the finish while you were doing these? Was there a sense of
That,
placing, podium, all
that's
that?
a really good question. For me, every race I've done, I've done, I say 85 ultras, but it's probably more like 100 ultras.
Okay.
I don't even know how many marathons and races. My goal is always for myself. I am competitive. I do want to perform, but it's not necessarily to hit the podium. It's my own personal goals for that personal race.
Okay.
So I like to, and this particular one, since I've done lots of ultras and 100-mile races, but this is 187 in a lot different environments over 7 days. The hardest part for me was that we had to take everything off that plane to go through customs, to load on a bus, to take the bus to the venue, to
Oh,
run 26.2 miles. Then you got to grab all your stuff, your suitcases, your backpack. You load it back onto the bus, back onto the plane. So you're not done with just the marathon. And it was really nice that they give you that generous time because you're doing so much for 7 days. It's not just stepping out and, just running. It's like working out before the marathon, working out after the marathon. So it was pretty intense. And, with that being said, though, my goal was to finish and be able to, you know, go to dinner and see my family and hang out and not be so depleted and wrecked. I wanted my body to be able to run races afterwards. I wanted to, be healthy. So that was just a really big goal. So for me, it was conserve, 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 conserve until the end.
so that is astounding to me that you didn't have that where the plane was your hotel room. You could just get off, run, and come back.
No.
Had to regroup every city you
Oh
went.
yeah. Yeah. It was very intense. That to me was the hardest part. It was absolutely the hardest part. And also sometimes the plane's parked on the tarmac. We have to go all the way up the stairs. You have two suitcases in your backpack and you just ran 26.2 miles, or you're 3 or 4 days in. I mean,
Oh yeah. Oh,
it was just a mental to keep in the game, gut it up, get up into the plane. The overhead bins became like impossible towards the end because it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I didn't even want to think about
Hmm.
lifting that bag out and back. It was crazy.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it was
So
intense.
tell me about sleeping, showering. All that occurred on the plane?
No, what they did, which is really brilliant, when you do land and you go run that course, there was usually either a hotel or a club or somewhere like in Perth, we had it was like a rugby club.
Okay.
So we got there, we ate right before we left, and we have time to get your stuff together. And then after the race, they had like pizza and everything laid out at the rugby club. They have showers, you can change and get ready to go get back on the plane. So every place we stopped, you have a chance afterwards to just take a minute, take a quick shower, grab your stuff. Yeah.
Molly, you're on a quest to be, well, I don't think you were looking to be the oldest person, but it's a tremendous distinction. But you're living like a teenager in a hostel, right? Like a backpack traveling around somewhere and you grabbing a shower where you can. That's
Yes.
stunning to me that's wow. Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, I don't, it's funny because age to me is just a gift.
Yeah.
It's a gift and I don't ever look at the number. Actually, sometimes I have to get a calculator. I honestly don't compute. It doesn't even the only time it was affecting me, this is really interesting. I'm just going to say this right now because before I did this race, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to wind down my career, right? I'm 66, 67, wind it down. And then I think I'll wrap it all up. And I ended up meeting some friends at a 50-mile race, and I just went there for fun to hang out with my friends. And I ran it, and it was like one of the best 50-milers I did. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'm not done. Like what is that? And then I followed that up with this weekend race for the ages.
Yes.
Everybody had to be over 55, and I did the 120 miles. And it's like, you know what? That voice, you're getting older. That's not even my voice. I was realizing that's not my voice. That is society's voice. What is my voice? What's my personal voice? It's like, hey, you know what? What do you want to do? How do you want to keep feeling? I mean, like for me, running is my meditation and my joy, flat out. And I know that I have this little window left. I do. I realize that I can't keep doing these big, giant, but I don't know how long I can do them safely and happily. And I'm going to keep doing that for as long as I can because I get so much joy from it. So, and even though these sound brutal and people say, oh my gosh, how could you run through the Sahara Desert? And how could you? I have to have a certain amount of joy and fun in any event I pick. I'm going to make it that way. Yes, it's challenging. It's super hard. Sometimes you go to that dark place. But for me, it's always like such an adventure that I can't pass it up. So after that little, I realized the voice wasn't mine. I decided, hey, what do I want to do in these? And then I read the 777 and I read that the oldest woman to do it was from Singapore and she did it in 2017. She was 67. And then I go, oh, I'm turning 68 right before the race. And that's how that happened. I thought this would be cool to see, see if I could break the record.
Did everybody do it? Everybody got through, everybody completed it, or did you have anybody dropping out?
There were a few people that didn't make it. Um, yeah. And that's always sad to see. There was a couple people that even didn't make the very first one. So it was very, yeah.
And do they get sent home or do they try to get?
No, I think you might as well be a cheerleader. I think
Yeah,
if
yeah,
that happened to me, I already thought ahead of time if I didn't make one, I would just be there and root everybody else on.
yes.
So, you're in it and might as well experience it and help where you can or be a volunteer.
So you now share the distinction of being the oldest person to complete this challenge. So there was somebody else on the trip with you that
Yes. Lisa Norton also finished it. We were the same age. So we share that, which was really exciting for me. I thought, and I know that that record's going to be broke next year. I believe that that's not going to be a long-standing record, and it shouldn't be because I do think that people love running longer, and there's more and more of us at this age doing more and more. So I can't wait to shake the person's hand that takes that world record away.
I think it's eh, the courage to run your first marathon. After I ran my first marathon, as much as I complained and it was pouring rain and the weather was not in my favor and I couldn't believe I had done it, it gave me the courage to do so many other things. And from what you're telling me and a lot of people who do ultras, it's once you start doing that, it gives you the courage to do more and the confidence. And every time you cross that finish line, it's like, well, hey, I did it. But what I find at the level that you're running, it transcends that who's going to come in first and I'm going to beat the guy next to me. All that seems to go away in the ultra running community. I see from what I see and what I hear, it's a lot less competitive than the shorter races because people aren't saying, I'm going to break that 6 minute mile or that.
I don't know if
Find
that's
that.
true. If
Okay.
I don't, because there are really talented, fast ultra runners that I admire and I watch. And there is a competition, I think, for the people that can go longer, further. I think it's when you're in the sport, I see it a lot, and it's great. And honestly, I admire that so much. So I take nothing away from the speed, and I'm on a plane with a bunch of younger guys
Yeah.
and women that are like so fast and
Yeah.
so fit. I mean, it's just so I don't know. I think it really comes back to there is in the ultra running community like super fast podium finishers, but I also think it's a different mindset than a marathon. I actually personally think a 50 miler is easier for me mentally than a marathon.
Interesting.
Marathon's not even my deal because everybody is going faster. And what's your pace and when are you finishing? I've never felt that way about running. I do end up on the podium a lot of times because of my age or whatever. And hey, that's great. I love it. But it's not my goal. And especially the marathons are tough for me. They're mentally tougher. I'm just going to admit it. I did the 6 star. I've done those, and it's funny because I had a hip injury. I was rappelling off a cliff, and I jammed my hip, and I had to have a hip labrum tear.
Oh,
And the
wow.
doctor said, "Hey, don't do ultras. Just do marathons. For the next little while." And honestly, I went back to him and said, "That's harder because of ultra. At least you're going at for me, it's a slower speed. Like I could do 12-minute mile
Okay.
all day until tomorrow. Like that, just stay at that or 12 or 30, you know what I mean? You just go like all day, take your time. And in a marathon, it's like, you better pick it up, you better get that pace down. That's my mindset about that.
That's very interesting. Yeah, because we used to always joke that those of us who were slower that the seated runners were went home, showered, and came back to watch us cross the finish line. They were
Oh, that was like, yeah, the
yeah,
fast
they're
people at
doing it in 2 hours,
777.
and we're doing it in 4.5 hours.
Yeah,
The camaraderie was amazing.
right.
I want to talk to you a little bit about how you got there. So each race leads to the next, and your running history. You can tell us more, but I lifted it again off your information. 150-mile races, Badwater. I want to talk to you a little bit about Badwater because you did Badwater, which is like being on 7 continents in 48 hours.
Yeah.
And I have some other friends that have done it. Badwater is ultra competitive, isn't it?
Yes, it's very hard to get in. They didn't accept me the first year.
Okay.
I applied for it because they said I didn't have enough experience. So I did 13 ultras in that next year and said, "Hey, you know, here's my resume, please let me in." And Chris,
Yeah, tell us about Badwater. I picked that as just it's sort of like the model of like the hardest road race to do in the world. I feel like now what you've done is even harder, but Badwater is
well, I think they're all different.
yeah,
Badwater is one of the toughest foot
yeah.
races on the planet. And for those of your listeners that don't know what it is, it's 135 miles nonstop from Badwater in Death Valley, the lowest point in the continental United States, up to 135 miles up to Mount Whitney, the porthole of Mount Whitney. So, and it's in July, the hottest month of the year. And it is a brutally, interesting, fascinating race that tests human endurance. It's simply a test of human endurance. And that was really, and then when you're running it, you have a crew in a car next to you that's giving you water and your nutrition while you're running. So you have a crew that follows you all the way to the finish line. So it's just you know what? It's one of my my most favorite accomplishments
Hmm.
because it's such a long race. It's unpredictable. Things happen so much. So you're constantly overcoming obstacles, constantly, like a chess moves, this isn't working or this isn't working. And how do you maneuver through getting to the finish line, which is such an analogy for life, right? Like obstacles and how we handle them and what we do. And when you finish something like that, I felt like there was nothing I couldn't handle. And I'm not talking about races. I'm just talking about my self-confidence and knowing my mental strength. I think I didn't realize that until I put myself in a position to see what I could perform.
So you, Molly, you've done you're the first American woman to run 220 kilometers through the Himalayas over two peaks of 18,000 feet in the race event La Ultra, the High. Do I have that right?
Right. Uh-huh.
Abbott World Marathon. I'll tell everyone that there's 6 marathons in the world. They're called the Abbott World Six. And if you finish all six in under 6 hours, which is a very generous marathon time, you have the distinction of the 6 star. I think they're adding another one on. Tokyo, Boston, New York, Chicago,
London,
London, and
Berlin.
Berlin. And so you have all this behind you. I want to ask you, how much did that take away from your free time, your family, friends? How did that affect those
Well, it
aspects?
didn't take any time away from them because my whole family's involved. We have a company, Desert Sky Adventures. My
Okay.
daughters both help run the company. Our whole family, my husband's an ultra runner.
Oh,
All of us are involved in the sport. So if we're not running together, we're going to races together. We've all crewed each other. So really, our my whole goal is to really help others to run and walk for health and fitness.
okay.
So it hasn't taken anything away. It's just I do what I love. I'm really fortunate that way. And I just feel like I'm on the planet really to help people move. And again, it's not about these giant distances. It's not about ultras and all the, thing. What it is moving through space, just whether that's swim, bike, hike, walk, run, all of it works and it doesn't have to be grueling.
So here we are, two gals in our 60s with great accomplishments behind us. Okay. So, what do you say to the older adult who wants to take on a daunting challenge, regardless of what it is, whether it's running, whether it's art, music, uh, gardening, whatever someone's sport of choice is? What do you say to people who want to get started on that and are afraid to?
Well, you know what? I think you just need a couple things. One is I think it's really good to either have a mentor or somebody that you admire and kind of see how they did it or talk to them about how they got there. I think it's really important to surround yourself with people that are like-minded that, for me, I can only speak on running because at first I had nobody around me who ran. I had my girlfriend calling me saying, "Do you want to run a marathon?" And the answer was no. It sounds awful. Why? That sounds terrible. That's how I started. I was 50. And she said, "Oh no, we're going to have fun. We're going to do this weekend, the marathon in Marine Corps marathon." So anyway, I said no. I hung up the phone and I felt sorry for her. It's like I didn't know. I wasn't running. I didn't know anything. So what happened with that phone call, the thin thread, was that I thought, oh my gosh, I am so out of shape. I'm so lethargic. I haven't done anything in so long. I'm coming from a place of zero. And I was really a busy mom, 3 kids. I'm working full time. How do you fit in anything? So I totally relate to people sitting out there going, like, how do you even start when
Right.
you're at a zero and you're so busy? So I called her back the next day and said, "Hey, what's the fun part?" She goes, "Oh my gosh, we're going to have a girls' weekend, la, 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 la." And I said, "All right. She goes, "We'll have a party. So I said, "Okay, I can go to a party." Right. So I think she was she was a lot of fun, and I looked to her for help, and I got a training plan, and then I found a running group. And I think when you start surrounding yourself with whatever that is,
Yes.
your biking club, your swim club, people, community that help and support you, then you'll go a long way. And then when I started Desert Sky Adventures, I knew how important community was. And I knew how important people needed to get together and be encouraged to walk and run and to make it not another job, but a fun, interesting, wonderful experience. So
Yeah,
yeah, I started by myself understanding that
yeah,
it's
yeah.
better to have, you know, people involved with you.
And that's what I was going to get to. One of the greatest things for me, the saving grace, is that every weekend when I meet my friends to do, whether it's a 5K, a 10K, a half, whatever it is we're doing, and some of us have downgraded, what we think we're going to do. I usually do the distance I set out to do. I'm a little stubborn that way. No, I'm here. I said I'm going to do it and I'll do it. And people say they need to drop down. I always say you're not dropping out. It's not a failure. Like you said, you're just readjusting as you go.
Absolutely.
You're managing the course of life, right, as you go along. But that aspect of community, some of my best friends, I have childhood friends I'm still close to, but some of my best friends came out of the running and walking community. And when I don't go on the weekends, we have some running groups that we're all accustomed to seeing each other. People call me, hey, I didn't see you, because it's, drop in.
Yes.
We pop in at Santa Monica or Long Beach here, in Southern California. Who's running today? Who's going to be around? And when you don't show up, people call and they want to know if you're okay. And it's amazing friendships and family that it's become. So I love hearing that. Molly, what's next on the agenda for you?
Well, it just so happens I'm going to the North Pole to run a marathon at the North Pole on the sea cap. So this just kind of happened. It's just kind of funny. I wasn't expecting to do this year, but I am now, and I'm really excited about it. So what it is that we meet in Paris, then we fly to Longyearbyen, Norway, to take a ship for 7 days. It's an icebreaker ship to the ice cap to run the marathon on the ice cap. And then we take 7 days to get back to Norway. And yeah, then I'll have the grand slam of running all 7 continents as well as the Arctic.
And
So
both poles, yes, both
yes,
the
both poles.
North
So
Pole and the South Pole of the
yeah,
Earth. It's absolutely amazing.
it's pretty
And
exciting.
is this cruise rustic, and or is it an actual cruise? Is
It's
it?
an actual cruise, but they also have, my understanding is they have 2 scientific labs on there. So they do all sorts of interesting things when we're up in the Arctic. And it is, I mean, again, it's the organization is the same organization that does the 777, and their safety is really high. I mean, we do have to run with life jackets on because it's moving ice up there on the ice cap. So it's like, again, a test of human endurance. And
Yeah.
yeah,
What's the
I'm looking
terrain? Is
forward
it
to.
you actually running on ice, or is there?
Yes, there's supposed
There's
to be
no
like
packed
three
snow or
feet
anything.
it's
Oh,
3 feet of floating ice. So
wow.
yeah, yeah, it'll be really interesting.
And it's how many? Is it several loops of a 5K or?
You know what? It's whatever they find when we get up there.
Oh,
I think they figure it out once they see it and where we end up. I think that one's kind of a last minute, like how they're going to make it happen.
I want to ask you a very heavy question. Do you need to sign a death waiver when you do these races?
Every race that you, I wouldn't call it a death waiver, but it is a waiver that, doesn't give anybody responsibility for your actions in that year. It's just the same with the race waivers you do for when you run your marathon.
Oh, LA Marathon, always we have to sign that thing in case of
Yeah,
event.
you sign every waiver to
Not
say, hey, you're
responsible.
healthy, you're fit, you're able to
Yeah,
run it, and you're not going to blame anybody if
that's right.
anything happens. Yeah.
And do you have doctors or medics that accompany you to these races?
There are always medics on these races. Yeah, these are in any endurance race is going to have the
Yes.
medical team there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, for you and for the whole entire community, that you did it, you came back, you live to tell, which is amazing. But what's even more amazing is that you are still looking and striving to do more and to keep your running company vital and to show other people it can be done. I remember, I think it was the LA, I've done so many LA marathons. I don't remember what year it was, but I was online with this lady, and I must have been, because I'm 64 now. And at the time I was probably in my late 30s, and she was visibly older and she had gray hair. And I said, oh, how many of these have you done? She goes, this is my first. I just decided I'm going to run a marathon for my 65th birthday. I
Wow.
remember at the time thinking, I can't even imagine being 65, and I can't even imagine running at 65, never mind. And I look around, and some of my dearest friends who I meet on Sundays, down at the beach runs 70, 75, one guy's 78, and everybody just shows up every weekend and keeps doing it. So
Well, the
together,
peer
Molly, we
reviewed.
partner and just keep encouraging people to do that. I always, when I have guests who've done endurance athletics, I always say, we can be an inspiration to other people. It's rather than scary, it should be something that people say, hey, I don't know that anybody would jump up and want to do bad water or 7 and 7, but really it's even the smallest amount to get somebody out and moving is a tremendous accomplishment.
That's right. I just want to mention that my husband's a scientist and does all the research, and there is research, peer-reviewed studies about running and about how healthy it is for you, and about how movement is like so necessary for life. So yeah, I agree with you. No matter what the distance, it's always a benefit.
Yeah, yeah. So Molly, you have a couple books out. Tell us about that.
Well, my one book, the first one is Running Past Midnight. It's my ultra running story about how I started from zero and moved into ultra marathon running, and that's on Amazon.com. And my second book is coming out this year. It should be out by December or January, and that is actually my journals for the 777. A year before I started journaling about doing it, and it's the whole story about how that happened. And then in the following second half of the book, I'm putting tips and tricks for people who want to get back into running or need some help with motivation running forward. So I'll have a
That's
lot of really good
excellent. That's
information.
excellent. Because I know that a lot of times we talk about manifesting, right? You'll have your eyes on a race or an accomplishment, and well, how do I get there? And one of the best ways to do is actually sit down and journal the journey there and talk about
Right.
and say, okay, what is it I need to do? It's like planning for anything in life. We're going to plan for that race and figure out what it is we need to do. That's fantastic. I wish you
That's
all the
it.
best with those as well. Molly, I want to ask you what you like about getting older.
Well, you know what? I never I think of I think of age as a gift. I'm grateful every day that I have. I always think of like my grandmother when I think of an elder person that, is wise and has lived life and has so much to offer. So I hope to be like that. I hope to be like her. She was 103 when she passed, and she was still going to senior citizen dances on Friday night and very active. And so I never thought of an older person not being active. And I think my goal is to stay as active and healthy and be out there, long after 80, 90, and be fit and able to really be self-supportive and strong. So yeah, I think I just look at it as a gift, and the gift keeps giving, right?
Absolutely. And I think you're well on your way to that. And I wish you many, many, many more years of happy, healthy running and life and enjoyment for sure.
Thank you.
Molly Sheridan, thank you so much for joining us today, the co-oldest woman to run 7 marathons in 7 days on all 7 continents. And now she has the North Pole coming up. So exciting. And for more information on Molly, you can go to her website, www.mollysheridanruns.com. And her business is www.desertskyadventures.com. I want to thank all of you for listening to It's Okay to Be Old. Please tune in again for more engaging discussions on all things aging well. And for feedback and topic requests, you can contact us at www.itsokaytobeold.com. Thank you again, Molly.
Thanks so much, Patricia.